Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode with the PaperTrails podcast by your boys, Shamaki and Mohammed.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good, huh?
Great. Had the day
It
off
feels
today.
like it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been.
It
To be fair, it has been a while.
It has been.
It's been a month or something.
Yeah, bloody hell, mate. I'm feeling a
We're
bit.
in mid-June.
Yeah, feeling a bit
Going towards
rusty
the
right
end.
now. But you know what?
You said that last episode.
You said that last episode.
You said that last
Actually,
episode.
I did.
Yes,
I
don't
just-
try on me, brother. I'm sharp today.
All those energy, sir.
Oh, mate. Jerry.
My word. But I guess the topic at hand is, I guess, less cheery. You know what I mean?
Depends how you talk.
I mean,
I could be one of those guys that talks about, you know what? All right, we're talking about grief today.
we're talking about grief.
You know, the thing is, everybody deals with it in different ways.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen someone that deals with it like a cheery way?
I don't know if it's grief that they're dealing with in a cheery way. I feel like maybe like certain situations where something's happened or like they get bad news, some people like kind of laugh or, you know what I mean, smile about it, this and that. But I don't think that's actually grief.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think grief, everyone suffers it, I guess, the same way.
Yeah, I haven't really met anyone who's like he deals with it in like a cheerful way, like a comedy, like just brush off the shoulder. And,
Yeah.
But I've met people who like.
I mean, they would be sick if they did.
Yeah,
It'd be a bit.
wouldn't trust them.
Yeah, you wouldn't trust them.
Well, I've met people who mourn in like a way that's like, oh, it happened, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird one for me.
That's a weird one as well.
Like it happened, like nothing happened to me recently, but it happened to someone I knew,
Yeah.
and like they told me someone passed away close to their family.
Yeah.
And then they already had a big holiday planned to Japan, which is like obviously very expensive stuff, so they couldn't like cancel it or anything.
Yeah.
They literally the person in the family passed away, and then like 3 days later they went to Japan.
Yeah.
And then they were working with me, and then they told me after they came back like, it happened. Like I didn't tell you guys it happened, and I could tell they were a bit down and out before they went on holiday. So I was thinking, damn,
They just played on through.
yeah.
I feel like I heard something about it. Are they on TikTok?
No, it's not something you know.
Okay, cool.
Colleague.
I heard that because the same exact story happened on TikTok.
But go ahead, introduce us.
You know what I mean? But no, what was I going to say? Yes, like we'll be talking about grief today. More specifically, a book by C.S. Lewis, the man who wrote Narnia, called A Grief Observed. Now, I came across this book, like I was telling Mo, because I was just looking for, sometimes ChatGPT can do anything. I'm looking for those like sad boy hour quotes, you know what I mean? Looking for like stuff in literature that has been written about when someone's, go through it in like a more artistic kind of, kind of
that spectrum.
Yeah. And this was one of the books that was given to me by my AI, my wonderful AI. And I started looking into it. It was like less than 100 pages. And I was like, you know what?
Can I ask, what did you write in it?
I have no. I'll be honest. I don't know word for word, but it was something along the lines of like, something. I think it was like sad quotes. I was like,
sad quotes. Wait, you're asking ChatGPT provide you sad quotes or a book with sad quotes?
No, I know there was a proper reason for it. I forgot what it
man.
was. It was something. I think I was looking into different other things. I was looking like, when I did that Paul Lawrence thing about the bird in the cage kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was looking for something similar-ish to that.
Yeah.
And then this was one of the things that was.
Well, what mood were you in when you put that in there?
I was in a normal, I would say stable mood. You know what I mean? After reading some of it, I don't think I was in a stable mood.
This is what I mean, man. Sherlock's a strange character, man.
But without those moments, you don't get stuff like
On
this.
a day-to-day, you just be... All right, let me talk about grief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, mate. I started reading the book out loud. My missus was in the room. I was like, just getting into a book that Shamaki recommended. And then I started reading and he was like, woe be me. I was like, God damn. Well, that wasn't the words, but it was written in that kind of language.
Yeah. I thought this guy was like hella old, but I remember he's only like, he only wrote this in like the 60s or something. So it wasn't that.
Do you think this was written before or after now? During Narnia?
That's a good question. Probably after. I don't think you can hit a banger like that after something like this.
But a lot of times, they say artists, they drop bangers after
Maybe.
the heartbreak happens.
Maybe. No, like I was saying, so grief in the dictionary terms, before we kind of break it down more, is emotional response to loss, particularly the loss of a loved one. It encompasses a wide range of feelings, including sadness, anger, guilt, and despair. Now, one thing that I must say, whether we like it or not, is that grief is coming for all of us, you know, in one way or another. Eventually, we will either be the ones that, you know, are lost to someone, or someone that we really, really care about, we're going to lose them. You know, so it's like one of those obstacles that naturally you will have to come across. And so in this one, C.S. Lewis, he had to deal with that. Firstly, his mum died of cancer, and then his died of cancer. And so what he basically wrote, this book is like essentially a journal of his thought process, his whole like stages through like the beginning part, the intensity of like the grief that he was feeling. It's broken down to like 4 chapters. So like, the first part is like hella intense. Then the second part is like less and less and less until I want to say he's come to a full understanding of it, because as he says, you can't really come into an understanding of grief. It's not like a thing where you go inside and then at the end of it, you're like, oh, that was grief that I just, you know, he describes it as a valley that you're walking down, and every so often you might take another turn, and then you remember something, or you remember that person, and then you feel it all over again.
Yeah. It's crazy that 3 close people like that would like, that's like unfathomable. So like, it's understandable why he would write a book like that, especially if he is a writer in general, like especially obviously such a well-known writer. Like that's obviously his normal, natural medium of expressing himself.
No, absolutely.
So like in the beginning, I was just reading through it, and then once I read his mum and his dad and his wife, like
his dad as well.
That is
crazy,
like, unfathomable. Yeah. Like, so like, I was kind of joking a bit about it on the car ride here when I was saying how like he was like the whole book was just an existential crisis, but like when you deep it, like I would probably think worse. Yeah. Maybe worse than that. What he was thinking.
He was like, as you in the book, as you go through it, he's like proper, like he's letting everything out. And also, I think it was because it was like a short marriage as well, because she died like I think almost 4 years into the marriage or something, you know. So he was talking about not being able to have a proper good long life with her and all this other kind of stuff. But one thing I must say before we even delve into the books, is I think obviously he was a smart guy, right? He was a contemporary. He was a friend of Tolkien himself in Oxford and all that kind of stuff. So he was smart, but his ability to articulate himself, as I was saying beforehand, is to me like out of this world. It's top class. I think you can, like for example, like how people would describe Michael Jackson, and his like genius was that these people would be like his ability to connect his like brain to his like hands in creating the art was like second to none. Like a lot of people can't do that. Like he could hear it in his head and then key for key compute it in his like physically and bring it out there. You know? Like, or like a painter when he sees something and he's like able to like finely tune it and put it onto like a piece of paper. With him, it's like he's able to express his words so well, so like concise and like eloquent, descriptive as well, in such a way that it's like this is exactly how he feels. And I, like when I was reading, I was like, I don't think I could describe it like that. You know what I mean? They'll be like, this is a bit painful. I could maybe a bit more in depth than that, but like that was like really like in depth level of like explaining and being able to connect his brain to like his pen. And like I said, like that, I think just shows the importance of reading. Reading it increases not only your vocabulary, but also increases like how you construct sentences, how you can mold it together, how you can describe things, how you can describe scenery, how you can describe people's feelings and moods and all this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, writing as well. Writing helps you formulate all of that into...
I would say it's like the ultimate form of improv, because it's like improv essentially is improvising whatever scenario is occurring, and I guess it's also communication. It's like the ultimate form of communication where you can just communicate whatever you're thinking in a way that no one can have any doubts about what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Because like obviously authors, a lot of them, they'll write stories in a way that the reader will understand it in various different ways and different angles, so they could do that on purpose. But with this, it was like, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling exactly, and you're gonna feel, you're gonna understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it as well.
Yeah, and like obviously you joked about the woe is me, but like he barely used stuff like, I'm in pain, I'm in this and that. Like a lot of it was like crafted in beautiful circles about how he was feeling about one specific thing, which is obviously grief. But I wanted to know, like, when you started off watching it, I mean, reading it, what was your initial thoughts?
Well, like I said,
I wanted to know if it was like, because for me, I couldn't put it down.
Because do you remember years ago we read The Death of Ivan Ilyich?
Yeah.
It was like season 1 of the podcast.
I can't remember it, but I remember reading it.
But it was kind of similar. Like, the guy was he was a Russian guy, I think.
Yeah.
And he was really ill. He was bedbound, and he was just talking about how his day-to-day was just changing. I don't remember what the scenario was, but he was just like talking about every single detail of his day, like hour by hour, like someone came to visit, and like he was like what does it really matter in terms of like people, do they really care about me, or they're doing this more of a transactional thing when I'm gone, what's gonna happen and all this. So like that one was quite depressing, but then like there was kind of an end to it as well, like where he kind of came out of it like feeling quite positive and quite grateful and all these other things. So it was quite I think it was a good read overall, and it was quite a short read. So I thought this would be a kind of similar kind of vein. Yeah. But obviously I didn't get to finish the whole book because it was a bit of a short notice when I started reading it. But I feel like the first 2 chapters were like, I would say like he just really covered so many different topics in such a short period of time because of how concise he was. Yeah. Where he's just talking about life and like different little things, like the memory that you have of someone that you might have seen for a while, like you hold that in your head for so long, and then when you see them in like a visceral in person, like that feeling of who they are and what they are in your head might be completely different from what they are. Yeah. Like there's so many different things that were just so maybe got me really thinking, you know, like but like I for me, like I kind of like I feel like I'm someone who's very matter of fact when it comes to things like that. Because for me, like I've accepted that life is finite and we're all gonna live and die. But I do feel like when like it got me thinking a bit more, like, and I do think about it every now and then, like what if my parents was to die? Like I know people that have like their parents passed away when they were young. I know some people parents passed away when they were like teenagers, some in their 20s and older, and like I see how they live and how they move and like I'm like I can't really imagine what it feel like. Yeah, eventually I'm gonna have to come.
Eventually it will come. Yeah.
Or I might die first. Who knows? Exactly, so the people around me will have to come to terms with that as well. So it really got me thinking, man. Yeah. But like I'm also like just accepting of it. Like I'm not like it didn't make me feel like negative in a way or positive in a way. So yeah, that's how I kind of felt. But I could see like the way he was thinking. I was just like, damn, like he was really deep in it.
Yeah, no, of course. But I think you said that very well. I don't think it makes you feel either way. You know what I mean? I think initially when I was reading
as well, who you are. I think different people will read it.
I think if you're going through this, like if you're grieving and then you're reading this, it will have a much more different impact on you.
Especially with such a loss he faced.
Yeah.
Of that, like your mother and your father and then your newly married wife dying all of the same thing, like the odds of that are like astronomically low.
That was crazy.
Like, and then for one person to go through that, because that got me thinking about things like I'm married, and I know people obviously like you're single, you're gonna like you want to feel that love of like, that marriage, and then but then marriage also comes with a trust. Like you almost feel like there's a trust between you and the person that you're marrying, or whatever, or whoever your partner is. That they're gonna be around for some time. You're gonna enjoy some
like
time.
You've got
with
a life to live.
But that there's no guarantees of that as well. So it's a crazy concept, but you have to really trust and give your heart like that. So that kind of got me thinking about that a bit. And I was just thinking about like from his perspective, like is a crazy amount of trust that he put in, and then having to lose that, and then having to come to terms with that. I'll probably write several books. I'll write a series on it. You know, it's crazy.
No, of course. I think it was also one thing that it reminded me of was I remember watching the film Troy time ago with Achilles. Yeah. And
the
then
Brad Pitt one.
Huh? The Brad Pitt one, yeah.
It was too, what do you call it?
What?
PG for me.
Too
I remember
PG.
watching it as a kid. Nah, that was crazy 18 plus scenes.
Oh, you R-rated. PG is good. PG is
R-rated, yeah, that's why I've been R-rated.
Goodness
Yeah.
me. I was like, too PG at that age? You're like, you be doing crazy stuff.
Man, they said, damn. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he mentions a quote that's basically like talking about the beauty of being, I guess, mortal. The being doomed, I guess, that you'll die. It makes everything a lot more beautiful.
Yeah.
Because all you have is now. Like, never be any more beautiful than you are now. Like, things technically won't seem like they'll be any better. So it's kind of like cherishing the moment, but we never really actually do that until something like this happens. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh my days, we had all of this and we had all of that. And I think what you were saying about that trust thing, it was really good, because he also kind of touches up on that, which is like grieving, how he describes it, is like basically your biggest act, or like the biggest thing you could show that you've loved someone, because your love like might be like a mountain like this high, but if your grieving is just as high, how he explains is like it equals it out basically. Because if you've loved someone, they go and you're just like, oh well, I guess, you know, then to him it's you haven't felt it as much as you should be feeling it. So it's kind of like, even like when you get a cat, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, this cat is gonna die eventually.
Yeah.
It lasts like maybe 13 years if it's an outside cat, 20 if it's an indoor one.
Yeah.
So
Damn,
you're,
you got those stats
so you
down,
know,
man.
yeah, of course. I had to check my cat. I had to check the timetable.
Yeah.
He died prematurely. I mean, but it is what it is. He's upstairs, man. But you pick up that kitten and you know it's going to die.
Yeah.
And you know you're gonna love it and all this kind of stuff. But despite all of that, you're still willing to love it, despite knowing what's going to happen to it, and that is going to go under the ground and you are going to lose it. But we choose to love it every single time. You know what I mean? Which is like, so he in the beginning is very much angry at not himself, but also at grief. And death and everything that comes with it. Like, what's the point of like a marriage and being happy if this is what's going to happen? Like, why do we enjoy these things? You know what I mean? He's going through that kind of phase, and it's like very, very toxic, I guess, in his. I think you also touched up on another point that he was saying, which is he then starts to get a bit angry with himself because he doesn't know how to remember her properly, because he says that all the memories left of her is just in his head. So that he doesn't know what she was actually like compared to what he's creating in his head. Yeah. Like, would she have laughed at that or would she not have laughed at that? And he describes it as like her face being a print and then snow like slowly falling on top of it until eventually it covers up. And then he starts getting upset at himself for that as well, because he's like, but look what I'm doing now. Yeah. How dare I treat her like someone that she wasn't? How can I keep this thing? You know what I mean?
I think as well, in terms of the time frame, that maybe there probably wasn't, there was probably like early cameras at that time. Yeah. But there probably wasn't like colored images and like digital cameras or anything like that. So like, I guess keeping memories would have been in like paintings and stuff a bit more, like it would have been a lot more difficult to retain the actual physical image of someone. Yeah. So that's a whole other case, because like I got pictures of people that have died in my phone. Yeah. I know, and I can see them, and I'm like, damn, they look like my nephew. Like, it's like my nephew like wasn't born when they were alive. Like, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Like they like he wouldn't have had that opportunity. I think, to probably remember them in that way. Yeah. So I feel like it'd be even more visceral for him, like that, in terms of like remembering the person. Yeah. So yeah, man, I was feeling pain.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, and then like, so even to the imaginary thing that he was talking about, he then talks about like one time him being in church and then some guy coming and telling his friends, hold back, I'm just going to say hello to mum. And he was holding flowers and like a trim cutter, hedge cut, whatever it was.
You're talking about someone saying bye to their mum, but they're going to a grave.
They're going to a grave, yeah. And he's basically saying like, what's better to do to keep her in his head or to like let go of that, but only to visit her as someone in a grave. Yeah, as a gravestone, because he's saying both ways I'm not going to be able to speak to her, both ways I'm not going to be able to see her, but like what's more meaningful to her, I guess, how to be remembered without adding more things to her, but just to see her at the gravestone, at the graveyard, or to just keep her in my head, knowing eventually she'll be happier or like better, and it's only going to be like fun memories, but it's not going to be who she is. Because he was like, if she walks in like 10 minutes later, somehow like from the dead, she would like burst all of that in like a few seconds.
Yeah.
You know, like, because no one's like how someone is in their heads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the other things all that he was talking about was the idea of the afterlife. So I thought that was very interesting. Excuse me. I thought that was very interesting, but I also didn't agree with him in that way, because he was talking about how like, okay, even if there is an afterlife and he believes in it, and like you might meet the person in the afterlife, they're not going to be the same, because he's like, nothing repeats can happen in the same exact way. But like I think reading that, and I was thinking, but can't you say the same thing about living with someone day to day? If you're saying that like nothing repeating will have the same feeling, okay, what about the feeling that you had with someone last week and the feeling you have with them now? Like I got married 5 years ago. This weekend was my 5-year anniversary.
Okay, I'm early.
Like my memory of my wife 5 years ago is different from my memory now.
Yeah, of course.
So like my physical feeling with her is different. Different. Same parents. I haven't, like, my mom moved out of the country 5 years ago as well, funnily enough. And like my feeling with my mom is different from when it was 5 years ago as well. So
it's forever changing.
Yeah. So like change is permanent at the end of the day. So even if in the afterlife, like is what, like if you do believe in that, is what you wish was to happen, was to meet the people that you love in the afterlife, and then for them to be the same the way you saw them when they were alive, or when you were alive, whatever. But like that's not technically realistic when you think about it, because life is not like that. So why would the afterlife be like that? So I didn't really agree with him on some parts in that kind of sense. So I did feel like sometimes he was really looking through things in the magnifying lens of his grief and his loss, which is understandable, of course. But
I think even like as well in the beginning parts, like how he even describes his like relationship with God as well, is like very like angry almost. Like, why is this happening? And like, why is this some sort of joke? And all these like things that he's saying. And then as he kind of speaks about it and journals it down more, even actually towards the end, one of the final parts that he kind of says in terms of like his relationship with God, how it comes full circle, is that he basically was like, this whole time he felt like he couldn't praise God, because he felt like it was God that took her away, and that was unfair on him, and all that kind of stuff. But then he realized by actually praising God, he would be praising her, because she was the gift that was given to him by God. Like, she came to his life through the grace of God. So he's kind of like, there is no way for you to basically praise a garden without praising the gardener. Because it's like, wow, this is a nice looking garden. But there's no way it would look that nice unless somebody made the garden and put it all together. So even in that sense, like as I was reading, it was kind of interesting to see as his whole, like, even his relationship, I guess, with God changes from like being mad and upset to slowly accepting what things are and how things go and how things happen and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, okay, this is a lot more realistic than I thought of someone's journal. Like, it wasn't, I thought towards the end maybe it would have got a bit more like poetic, and he would have started giving like I don't know, like, just, well, this is how it is, and I guess things are like that.
That's what it is.
You know what I mean? And then like it goes off. But it was kind of like coming full circle, and you could kind of see, okay, he's actually calming down a bit. You know what I mean? Through his writing alone. I mean, there was the way the chapters are done isn't like, it's just chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. There isn't no like headings. There isn't no nothing. It's just kind of.
It does say part 1, part 2.
Part 1, part 2, yeah. But like only through the writing can you really tell that, okay, he's actually starting to accept some stuff. And even how he eventually learns to discover grief and what he says about it, rather than being, because first he kind of speaks about it like a spiral that somebody goes down in and then they go round and round and round. But eventually he describes it more as like a valley, where he says it's a valley, it's a journey that people are going through, that its time frame isn't like anything else. There isn't like after a few days you'll be okay, or like, you know, if you sprain an ankle, if they say, yeah, after 3 weeks, you'll be back to normal. He's saying that this thing kind of is like, it's a valley that you're wandering down, and every day you might take a left, you might take a right, you might go up a stream, down a stream, whatever it is, but nothing will be the same experience as before. Sometimes you might feel the grief more, or sometimes you might feel it a lot less, but you have to understand that it's always going to kind of be there, rather than just being like, grief time is over, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, the times he remembers her most isn't when he's trying to remember her, funny enough. He's saying it's like when he's like about to have a bath or do the normal stuff, like it will just happen. And he's like, but I didn't ask for it then, why is it still happening? You know what I mean? And I was like, that's a very interesting way to kind of put it, because I feel like grief for so long, it has got like a negative connotation to it. Well, I mean, for me, before I read this book, I just felt like it had a very big negative connotation to it. It's like grieving, you're crying, you're miserable, you know? But towards the end of the book, he's kind of more describing it as, you know, you're actually loving this person, rather than, you know what I mean, mourning by itself.
What?
Like, as in, like, what I initially thought grieving was, it's just like, you're upset.
Do you feel like the grief has changed for you?
Yeah.
And like,
like in a sense that initially how I saw it was, grief is, like I said, I haven't gone through like proper grief, I would say. So I just thought it was like, you know, you're mourning, you're upset, you're like going through it, you don't want to eat anything, this and that can come with it. But now with this, I'm kind of like, okay, when that time does come and I'm going through those feelings, the reason why I'm going through those feelings is because you love that person, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
by like, let's say my wife dies, right? Me crying is me loving her. Yeah. So it's like, I wouldn't feel bad on myself for doing that and being like, why can't you move on? Why can't you be normal?
But would you say before you read this book that that's how you would have felt?
I would have just been, I mean, I had no real concept of it. I just thought you're mad upset. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going through turmoil and like there's no way out. You know what I mean? Like, you're essentially depressed. But whereas now I'm kind of like, if you're grieving, you're essentially loving that person's memory. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's kind of like, I think for me, it's like, it's changing into more of a positive, I guess, outlook than if I was crying over someone, I wouldn't feel bad about it. I would feel like, no, this is it. Like, this is the bargain that you made when you chose to accept this person and love this person, that it would come with this. Yeah. And now this is it. This is the part and parcel, you know?
I thought you, like, because I was been listening to this podcast. You know Bobby Lee, the guy that, like, the
Korean, Chinese guy.
Korean.
He's good,
yeah. He was, he's got a podcast with his brother. Yeah. Well, his brother's got a podcast, he was on it. Yeah. They're both comedians. Like, they don't take anything seriously in it, but like they've been through a lot of traumatizing stuff as kids. Yeah. Like, their dad was like very abusive, like super abusive. Okay. Like, beating up their mom, beating them up. Yeah. And like they were like always coming to terms with that, and like he had like super anger management issues. But then their dad got really ill. Yeah. Like really ill, like on the verge of death. And then they were just coming to terms with that, and they were talking about their feelings and them in the hospital. Like, even though they despised him, yeah. Like they saw like he was just a weak man. Like he's a human at the end of the day, and like they started remembering like some of the little good things that they had with him. Yeah. But they still felt like empathizing with them, even though like there's no contract or anything like they've agreed to look after this person because it's purely because it's their father, but. At the end of the day, it's still his family and blood. Yeah. Like, they still felt like they should have some empathy for him. They started feeling that even though they didn't want to feel like that. And then it got to a point where they started talking about like, this is where their dad was alive. He passed away after. Okay, talking about like, what if their mom died before their dad, because their dad recovered from the first major illness. What if their mom died before their dad, like, because they were fond of their mother, she's still alive as far as I know. But they're talking about that, and they were like that's a crazy thing. Like imagine that, because now she's the one that loves their father, and like they obviously the parents know each other before the kids, innit? So they're like, right, so now we're the ones that have to look after the dad who we despise. And they even talk about like in hospital. Even then, while he was ill, he was still saying like not hateful stuff, but like he was just showing his bad tempers and his bad.
Even in hospital.
But like you can imagine someone who's naturally bad tempered.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The nurse doesn't bring something to them on time, whatever. I'm just giving an example. I'm just giving an example, but obviously I didn't experience that, so I wouldn't know. But they were just talking about that kind of stuff, and like imagine like their mum passed away first, and then like they would still have to like, and their dad was living in an area, the parents were living in an area where they didn't want to live. Like it was like Arizona or something like. So like New Mexico, or whatever. Like in the desert. And they're living in like Cali. So like, so then the mom passed away, and they have to go look after their dad in like Arizona or whatever. Like they were talking about that, and then they were talking about we have to be in the care home, and the other one was like, nah, like no way you can do that to our dad. Like, I just thought like it's crazy how like even like people with like a large amount of success, like Bobby Lee's a rich. He's been in bare films, he had his own shows and stuff. Like you don't think that they're dealing with this for some reason. You don't think that they're dealing with this kind of I guess situation. Where like what's his name? Lewis.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis, yeah. Like he kind of also put into terms how he was feeling as well. So like at the end of the day, all of us, it can happen to the rich or old. Like all of us might have some things that we have to come to terms with in terms of the relationships we built. Like there are social contracts we have to look after each other, even if we've had really bad experiences with each other. At the end of the day, like there's still an underlying level of love there, and like we're all human. So even if we really struggle to empathize with them, eventually it will come. Like people will feel like once you start seeing how weak someone is, how human someone is, like you naturally, I think your heart starts to like soften.
And empathize.
Like I got another relative of mine whose mum's been ill for some time, and like. He's just seen her more and more as a human. She got even though before that he was like, this is my mom, and like it is a real like difference of I guess love that you feel for someone once they're in that kind of position.
Of course.
So I don't know if we can really understand like I know your opinion, your thoughts on grief as you're reading the book, but I don't know if we can feel that like that real sense of it until we actually do experience it. You know. Like even me, I say that I'm a matter of fact, and I'm quite. Some people, I wouldn't say unemotional, but just maybe too composed in the face of adversity in that kind of way, you know. Like I know if like my parents passed away, even if one of them was, like for me, I'm not even thinking about mourning them straight. I'm thinking about about the kids. Like I'm thinking about like my younger siblings and that straight away. And that does get me worried a bit, and it gets me thinking like, oh, I need to set things up in such a way that I can be there for them and help them out for as soon as I can in that way. Innit? I feel like,
but naturally,
until it happens,
it would happen regardless. That's what I'm saying is when it does happen. In head to kind of tell myself, okay, this has happened, but you're upset right now because of them. That's what it is.
Of course,
So it's like
you're mourning the loss of their presence, not just mourning for the sake of emotions.
Like so, like just reminding yourself why you're upset constantly, rather than like being angry at the world. Why has this happened? What's going on here?
Some people will react like that.
Exactly. But it's like trying to get yourself out of that, because that's where the loop can start happening, because you will not get answers to that. You know what I mean? That's the craziest thing.
I agree.
You won't get answers to it. You won't know why. If they maybe missed the train would have not exploded, and they would have been.
If only I was there for them, and that.
Do you know what I mean? If only I told them to come back for a little second, and then they would have missed that train. You can't comprehend none of that. Like all of that it's already done. So now it's kind of like how you feel about that person, what that person kind of meant to you, and moving on, feeling that, you know what I mean?
I'm smiling because I feel like this is like in terms of the podcast, I feel like this is the season where we're just accepting so many life facts. Like we accepted like, oh, health is finite, we could die anytime. Time is finite, we have to do every kind of our time. like all of these different books that we're reading, like the book about make time, putting things on the back burner.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this season we're
But
coming to terms
isn't it
with a lot of
crazy
things.
though as well? The fact that it happens.
Yeah.
Like I remember.
What do you mean?
Like
the fact that what happens is death.
Like like the fact that like everyone lose everyone. Like I remember one time I think Dave Chappelle, he was doing, it wasn't like a proper comedy part. It was just sometimes he does this like monologues. After the show stuff, monologues. Yeah. And he was talking about him and his friends, and then he was like, we were talking and we got to a point where I was like, where's this guy? Why isn't? And then he's like, oh no, he's passed away. This one's got a health problem, and he's like, yo, we're getting to a point where we're getting health issues and people are dying.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like we're getting to an age where like we're losing friends. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, obviously, I think right now we're young, so you assume nothing will happen. And nothing does. But I think when you get older as well, that's when you probably start to realize more like, okay, cool. Like, you could potentially start losing.
It's crazy. You might never see your grandkids. Like, you might never see your great grandkids.
And the thought of that alone is like it's so wild. Like to me,
that's why I was talking about the point of like pictures. Like I've got pictures. Like my nephew looks like strikingly like one of my grandfathers. I'm like, they never met. Like they never. Like my grandfather would have never even have been aware of his even thought about his existence or even his name. Yeah. Like it's just crazy that. Like through genetics, like that someone can just get passed down in that way. Like, it's almost scary, but it's also incredible. Like what the human can do, you know. Yeah. But
also, like just the fact that to your nephew, to him, your granddad's just like a memory. It's just names.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to someone else, he was real and he was there and he did stuff. And you know what I mean? Yeah. It's the fact that over time you eventually resort to like just.
And eventually that person will be completely forgotten.
Yeah.
Apart from their name, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the stories that my dad told me about my granddad. Like I can't tell those stories to my son if I was to have a kid or whatever. Yeah. Like I couldn't tell those stories in the same way. So like, within a generation, like all those stories are lost, which is crazy. But it's acceptance of life and grief. By C.S. Lewis.
Yeah. But I was happy I came across that book because it wasn't. I mean, I guess grief isn't something I was thinking about, but just that the mortality and the finite amount of time that everyone has was something that I've just always been thinking about. Like for example, when someone's talking about like a pharaoh had a cat, and I'm like, yo, that cat is like gone, innit? Like, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but it's like I see so many cats now, but like these cats will not be here. Like none of us will be here. Like every human being that I see on the bus, that I see on the train, like sometimes I'm just sitting on the train. I'm like,
you gonna die.
Yeah,
you gonna
die.
die.
It's crazy how we're in the same era.
You sound like them crazy.
You know what I mean?
Kids, you gonna die. You gonna die.
Everyone gonna die. But like but the fact that I came across this book was like it was somebody I was kind of just going through that.
Yeah. Especially someone you respect, probably.
Yeah. The guy wrote down as well. You know? So I was like, okay, let me see his thoughts on it. And it was just so well done that I was like, these are better than I would have. If I did it, I'd probably sound crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the way he's done it was like, nah, it just makes you think. You know, food for thought.
So, what would you say your relationship was with like grief growing up? Because I also wanted to touch on the topic of grief in storytelling in films, in books, and movies. Yeah. Like growing up, I hated like you watch a show or whatever, and then your favorite character dies or whatever. Yeah. Even if it's not your favorite character, it might be your favorite side character dies. It technically makes the story more visceral and surreal, and have more of an impact to you. But I kind of felt that grief even as a kid. Like, damn, like why can't I? Even when a good show ends or a good show or a good book ends or whatever, like I always felt like that pang. Like, damn,
of course.
Damn, I'm not gonna get any more of that.
Yeah. I remember one where it hit me proper hard.
What was you say is like the reflection of that? Yeah, go on.
It was funny enough. I don't know. It was like have you seen the film Anaconda?
But
it had
the big snake thing.
Yeah. It had Jennifer Lawrence and Wilson and.
I don't think I ever watched it. Probably.
So I used to basically think that if an actor died, I thought movies were real, innit? I thought if you die there, you're gone. Yeah. And Owen Wilson was like one of my favorite characters, like actors of all time. And he gets moved to by the anaconda, yeah. Like you can see his face like being stretched out on the skin and like, you know, he's got like broken nose in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, they killed him. I couldn't believe it. I was looking around, I was like, yo, Owen Wilson, he's gone. Like right now, right here, he's dead. Like I'm not gonna see him. And it felt, I felt it in it until obviously my older brother told me it's not real.
Yeah.
But for like a good half an hour, bro, I was feeling it. I was like, yo, we're never seeing him again. This means no more movies. But then, other than that, I'd say when my grandma passed away, there was because we was looking after, she was like living with us, Allah rahmah. And then it was like slowly happening bit by bit, and eventually until it did happen. And then
do you feel like do you remember her well? Obviously, the whole topic of memory.
Yeah, I don't remember her
you know
enough
her well?
to grieve myself personally, if I'm being completely honest. But obviously my parents did, and it was like just felt different for like a little bit. And then it was just kind of like when they came back from the hospital and like my grandma wasn't with them, and I was like, okay, like, this is like there is no coming back, you know what I mean? And it was like, yeah, that was I think it wasn't like, I would say like a deep grieving, but it was just an understanding of the essence of, I guess, moving on, people dying, like my early thoughts on that of like, okay, this is it. Like it seemed so childish because it was like, oh, they're not coming to the house, but like they're not coming back. Literally ever.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Like, that's like for me, like I almost felt like growing up because I cried a lot when I was a kid because I was just an annoying kid, and I was an angry kid all the time. I used to cry when I was in fights. Like I almost feel like, damn, I better stop crying. I'm gonna lose this fight. Yeah. But, I used to cry a lot, right? But it got to a point where I was like, there was one day, I don't know what it was that caused it. I was like, I'm never crying again.
What the hell?
Such a dramatic thing for a kid to think, right?
Was it after? Did you get ass whooped or something?
Nah,
you just said nah.
That's it. Yeah, time to grow up.
That's wild. What the hell?
My dad's blazer on and called it a day, you know. But I just decided not to cry. Then after like a couple of years later, I remember like my great grandmother passed away, and then in the same year, I think my grandfather passed away. And then I didn't cry for any of that. Like, and I saw like my family crying, like especially in like the grave and all that stuff. Like I saw them crying. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not feeling the same way? But from a young age, but I was still grieving, you know. I still felt like it, but I don't feel like
that crying.
Sorry,
you feel like, did you stunt that crying growing up? Because you just
I feel like I put an emotional block. I don't know what it was, but it's weird, isn't it? Like to this day, I haven't cried. Like I've never cried.
Oh wow,
like
that's crazy.
No matter who passed away, how much emotional, how emotional I feel. Like I haven't cried since since I was in primary.
It's not right, man. You gotta let yourself tear up a little bit.
Yeah, but and I agree. There's a bit of what do you call it? There's a bit of I don't know. I think when people cry, it does release some tension. Yeah, like, I'm sure there's some kind of science around it. Like physically, it releases some kind of tension because, like, I feel like you're really relaxing yourself. Like you're making yourself really vulnerable. Whereas before, like, if you're feeling really emotional and you're really tired, like, I'm sure there's a lack of release there and there's a lot more tension. But yeah, for some reason I didn't. So like I always felt like my relationship with grief was a bit weird. Yeah, but I was like too matter of fact. But I feel like over the last couple of years, I've become a bit more. Yeah, I wouldn't say emotional, but I'm more in tune with like my emotions. When something sad happens, or like I'm more expressive, I'd say. Yeah, I'm a bit more open to it. But like in terms of like media and like films and TV shows. Like from a young age, like if I was reading a book, I'll just get pissed. Like, I was reading a comic book or whatever. Like, because like for me, it's always like you grow up and it's just the concept of good and bad, you know. Yeah. And like reading all these like action books and stuff and like comics and stuff, like you're really attached to that idea of good versus evil. So like, I kind of always felt like, like when you're reading the comic and your favorite character's getting their ass whooped, like getting their ass handed to them, like damn.
You're like, get up.
Yeah.
That big Bill, get up.
Yeah. But then there's like things like I remember like Batman, like I think the first ever thing that I read or consumed that was like someone died. I think was one of I think it was like the second Robin.
Yeah.
And Robin, like I think the second Robin died, and it was because of Batman's like Batman didn't step in where he needed to, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I was like, damn, I really felt it as a kid. Like I was like, damn, I was like, Batman, Bruce Wayne must be feeling it right now, innit? Even as a fictional character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It kind of made me, I don't know, feel like, okay, anything can happen now, but like the story was really a lot more impactful as a result. Like, then I think ever since then, like from that first time I read that comic, like every single story I read, I don't rate it as much if there are lack of consequences. I feel like it's so important to a good story because
you gotta have stakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like there's so much soft material out there now that just it maybe because people don't want to be offensive or whatever, but like a lot of shows, like they just don't do that, or films they don't do that. They keep on bringing people back and all that stuff. And it didn't feel like as
going
impactful.
back in time just to bring them back. You know?
Yeah, the worst, time traveling. Just to redo what they couldn't do before. Like I feel like those are the worst. And like the best ones are the ones that, like, I think Game of Thrones was the first one. Like in I wouldn't say Game of Thrones is the first one. Like I would say maybe like Lord of the Rings is like the first mainstream like film that we watched. Like there was some real sense of loss in a lot of places. And then you got like Harry Potter as well, like his mum and dad dying from the jump, and then like all the trauma that he faced. Like it's quite mad when you think about it. Like that was you or whatever.
Yeah, I was like 50. He's just seen everything.
Uncle
died, all sorts.
So like that also felt like a real sense. Like when Dumbledore died, I was like, damn. So like that felt like a loss in my life, you know. So like that, I think like people can really learn from media, like from a young age, like and that's why I think it's important to kind of monitor what your kids consume and stuff, because like they could be consuming some real traumatic stuff. If it doesn't seem that traumatic as an adult.
Into your, like, what the hell did I see? What's real?
Yeah. So before I saw that Batman episode, I was thinking I'm gonna put the cape on one day. I want to make sure I'm gonna fight crime, man.
But life is peachy,
But now I just feel like if I like no one really close to me has passed away, alhamdulillah, but like if that was to happen, I feel like I'll be a lot more emotional than when I was younger, I would say. But I also have the more resources and I guess emotional support around me to kind of handle it. Whereas before I did kind of think of it in such a way that, how am I gonna handle that? How am I gonna handle that? Like that's kind of the way I was thinking about it before. Not like before reading this book, I would just say in general.
Just in general, yeah, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like I would say my relationship with it now.
Yeah, no, I'll say, I mean, like, so even like I said at the beginning, because I wanted to touch up on like characters and stuff like that in fiction and in the movies that we've seen growing up. In the beginning, when I was saying like how he, from I guess being a reader and being very articulate, he was able to formulate all those kind of stuff and whatever, all of, like the book that he basically wrote. And the reason why I wanted to touch up on this is because I also want to start a book club. Just putting it out there again, as I already did. Started a book club for the Mandem. Because I feel like majority of the time when I guess guys suggest the book, it's like non-fiction. You know what I mean? No one's really ever reading fiction books. Whereas with that, and I feel like if, let's say, for example, I was going to give you some advice, I feel like if I was like, do X, Y, and Z, it would be a lot different than like if I told you about somebody that did this thing here and it ended up getting somewhere. Like you can put yourself behind that, you can relate so much to it, you know? Like even the concept and the ideas of grief, like somebody could, in a non-fiction book, write it all out, what it is. In the proper like scientific way, whatever, but it will not hit the same compared to someone that like writes a story and follows a main lead that's actually going through grief. For example, like The Bear. His brother dying, commits suicide, and
that's why people love it so much, I think.
Yeah, because you can connect to it and you can go behind this and you can be like, oh, okay, this is how this person feels and how they go around, how they touch things, how they move, say, all of that
And
stuff.
some
you
days
can
there's
put
highs,
yourself
and some
into it.
days there's lows.
Yeah, exactly. There's all of that stuff that a non-fiction book cannot show you, and it cannot teach you that. It can just tell you the city looks like this, but if you're not walking through the city, you don't really know the essence of it, you know? And I feel like, for example, I think the biggest kind of lesson is like Frodo and Gollum. Is
I'm trying to avoid smiling. But
this is like the 17th Lord of the Rings mention, huh? But like Frodo and Gollum, right? So Frodo initially wants to kill Gollum, right? And Gandalf says, why? Like, it's not up to you who you decide to kill, you know what I mean? Maybe he has a purpose that you don't know. Same thing for you. And he's like, all right, fine, I guess.
I wanted to smoke Gollum.
Yeah, everyone wants to smoke Gollum. The guy's a snitch.
There's no one I would smoke more than Gollum, bro. If you talk about top 5 characters you want to smoke, Gollum is on the top of my list.
There's nothing like, it's just, you just want to smoke.
Yeah, he's got such a smokable face,
like,
you know?
the joke, you want to keep him rug. You just want to see what he does. You know, he's a bit charming, even if he would try to kill you. You know,
even think,
Gollum.
What's the blonde kid from Game of Thrones?
Oh, Joffrey.
Yeah, everyone hated him. He's up there.
Like, that's Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
The hell?
He's up there, but the Gollum, word, mate. I always...
Just how he is, how he walks, how he talks, everything just makes him smoke the guy.
Like,
and everyone disrespects him. So like, Aaron goes, I wanted to smoke him, but I thought, let me know, you know, if they feel pity for him.
There's a new film coming out, you know that? Called The Hunt for Gollum.
No way.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, mate, I want to be surprised, bro. But what I was saying was, like, you've got this Frodo guy, and you've got Gollum. And the reason why Frodo was meant to keep Gollum alive is because Frodo has this ring that makes you corrupt and like selfish and all these like ugly traits and whatever have.
It brings the most evil traits out of you.
Yeah. And Gollum is the actual like physical embodiment of what he will become. So he then changes from hating him to being like, oh, this is why I have to destroy this thing. Otherwise I'll be like this filthy creature, you know? Yeah, I can't, like, they don't respect the guy.
You feel like the whole concept of Lord of the Rings was purely because Gollum. Without Gollum, Lord of the Rings just doesn't exist.
None of this happens, you know what I mean? But so like, for example, like that, teaching you like how you have to like avoid becoming a certain person, otherwise this is the person you end up being like. Like there's very few ways you can do that in a non-fiction book compared to fiction. Like I was saying again with the bear. And how so many people relate to it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the broader aspect, it's just a guy in the kitchen. He's a head chef and all this kind of stuff. But it's the personal traits that we look out for. You know?
And like you said, there's a lot of grief in that story, and the way different people within that story are grieving. And the fact that someone wrote that story, it's just another crazy story to tell. Like, how does someone come up with all these different bars and like the concept of it being in a kitchen and all this. I keep joking to my wife because I'm getting annoyed at the number of like office type shows that are coming out these days that are like trying to rip off the Office, but like none of them seem to hit as much because it almost sounds like someone in Hollywood was like, all right, how can we replicate the success of Office?
This one worked. How can we get another one?
But like, just make it like in a cafe or in a tire shop. You know, there's a tire shop one now. And like then a majority of them aren't as good. So it's just interesting to me, like the mind of a writer like that skilled to come up with a concept like the bear. And it's nice to see in the modern age, I would say, for sure.
Course. Especially even the setting of a kitchen.
Even though like I said, so much grief and tragedy in that show, like it's almost traumatic to watch.
Yeah, but he's got a restaurant that he has to upkeep. So in a way, he can't really deal with it.
But still have comedy.
But still
have comedy. It's crazy.
All of that,
Which is life. Life can't be like too sad or too happy or too boring or too comedic. There's got to be a balance of it, and the best shows like that they do that. And then same with fiction books, like you said, like non-fiction can't really show you all of that emotion. I would say, and make you feel that way in the same way.
And that's why the Mandem need to start reading.
Yeah,
that's why they need to start reading, because I feel like as well a lot of people are lacking empathy. You know what I mean? Empathy to understand where someone else has come from, even though they might not agree, even though they might not like them, but understanding, okay, this is why this person's hurt so much because of XYZ. Oh, this happened in his childhood. I guess this is why they're, you know what I mean? Because you just look around, even like TikTok comments and stuff like that, and Twitter, and
people lack like that empathy, like you said.
basic empathy.
I feel like there's a lot of people also talking about like the lack of like I heard the term the first time I was doing social contract. That social contract is breaking. A lot of people are saying that because things like people aren't standing up for like older people on trains as much anymore and stuff like that. It's just interesting to see like there's some people that are paying attention to it and some people aren't. But also the idea of mental health, pushing mental health. Like what you call it, treatments. A lot of people now realizing that a lot of it is becoming more selfish than it needs to be. Like, oh, everything is self care. What about the community? How's that going to build community spirit? And like how much like the idea of don't hang around if you're like feeling negatively. If you're feeling negative in a mental health sense, like don't hang around with someone who might be going through a traumatic experience because they might trauma dump on you and all this stuff. Like a lot of that now, I feel like people are starting to like come to terms with that a bit more as well. So it is interesting to see like the way society is just swinging from here and there. But like you said, I think reading these stories and being able to understand from different points of view, different characters, and hear how they came to be who they are and how they came to be what they are. Like without those stories, it's very difficult to be empathetic because like we grew up around stories and we grew up around like all the people telling us, oh, this your great grandfather was this and this and so and so.
Exactly.
Like this is kind of who you should aspire to be like. And that's like the oldest form of like storytelling, I would say, and in these fiction books, they really embody that and capture that spirit.
But like for me, I remember, like I think for me, Anakin is probably the best character arc for me, as far as the character goes, right? And going from seeing him as the villain first, to then being like, okay, this is why he's
being the hero first and then the villain.
Well, to be fair, technically, people saw Darth Vader. We saw Anakin first,
but in terms of linear,
So you're like, who's this man behind this mask? And it's like this broken kid that was actually trying to save his mom first, couldn't do that, and he was like, nah, this isn't enough. I need more, and then going down this dark path to save.
I feel like we should give Star Wars a dedicated episode.
It deserves it.
Yeah.
It deserves it. You know
I got stories. I can spit about Star Wars all day long, but go on.
That's what I would say. It's like, for example, like that again is a big case of like empathy, understanding that we can even love the villains. You know what I mean? If we understand where they're coming from and understanding where their point of views are. You know, because no one's born evil. You know what I mean? No one's born really, really good either. So it's just kind of like a lot of things that mash up and mold somebody into becoming who they are. And the more empathetic you are, the more you can understand, okay, this is where it stems from and this is how you can tackle that. And you know what I mean? And grief being one of them. And so this book here, that's why I would recommend it to everyone. Even if you're looking through grief, just to kind of get a good concept of what it is in a very articulated way. That will definitely make you think, because that's what he's doing a lot of time. He's not telling you this is how you should feel. He's saying this is how I felt and this is all the questions that I have going through the pain that I'm in right now.
Before we wrap it up, how would people sign up to the book club?
That's a good question, which I haven't prepared yet.
Fair enough.
But I'm gathering up a list of names. So far, we have about 10. So now it's just a case of either finding more, sticking to that 10, or and then a good location, and then saying this is what we'll be doing. Cool. Yeah,
if you're interested, DM us and we'll add you to the list.
Absolutely. Instagram is Inspyre UK. That's probably the best place to do it. And hopefully we'll see you guys on the Mandan Book Club. If not, we will see you on the next one. And we'll see you.
Let us know who your top 5 punchable characters are as well.
Top punchable characters.
Gollum, my word.
That's an absolutely good one.
I might go home and punch the wall with a picture of him on it. It's been the boys from Inspyre. I'm Ivan and Shamaki. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys can join us in the next episode. But with a book in mind that we've all collectively read, it'll be nice to see.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
Peace out.
Cool. Quick little thumbnail. a good one for grief. Why are you smiling like that? Bloody hell, bro.
Oh, man. You got to make this a clip as well.
Keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.